A very warm welcome to you. Many thanks for joining us on this week's edition of the program. As you know, we are your source for all the latest happenings in the world of business. My name is Maggie Osibo. You're welcome. On the lineup this week, we bring you our regular segments. First, to join Faith in a one-on-one exclusive interview with Mr. ZIA ZAMAN, the Chief Executive Officer, LumenLab, and the Chief Innovation Officer, MetLife Asia, where they looked at digitalization and the future of the insurance industry. According to him, insurance companies must deploy technology to solve identified problems in order to better the operational efficiency. Do take a listen.
We are not just investing in technology. We are investing to tackle a known business problem that we heard from the business today.
On this edition also, we will bring you highlights of the 2019 edition of the BULLION Lecture organized by the Center for Financial Journalism at the Civic Center, Victoria Island, Lagos, under the theme, Leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Agreement for Nigeria's Economic Development. Speaking during the panel discussion, Mr. Muda Yusuf, DG LCCI, said that Nigeria is very weak on trade. Do take a listen.
We are very weak on trade. This economy is over 50% services, and a lot is happening in terms of contribution of services to employment, to revenue.
Plus, of course, all the other extras we bring you each week on the program. So what can I say? Sit back, relax, and enjoy the lineup. Details in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Okay, so thank you. I'm sitting with Mr. ZIA ZAMAN. Let me ask how there's so many innovations coming in terms of technology. You have artificial intelligence, you have blockchain, you have telematics and all of that that you mentioned. These are good. But to what extent do you think this can actually drive efficiency in business, especially when it comes to insurance?
That's a great question, and I'm very optimistic about the potential of enabling technology to change the business of insurance in a couple of ways. So the first part would be with regards to our core product and services. New ways of thinking about lowering the cost of acquisition of a customer will improve the economics of our business, and that happens through some front-end digital tools. In the back end, we find that there are new innovations that will improve our operations, that will reduce the cost to serve. And that also translates into improved efficiencies in the business. So that's the first part. The core will benefit from lower costs of acquisitions and lower cost to serve. There's also a lot of innovation happening in an area that you didn't mention, and that's around health. We're seeing that health innovation over the next 10 years might actually increase the pace or exceed the pace of digital innovation. What do I really mean? The things that we're going to be able to do from a health or medical perspective might actually allow our costs to go down to be able to improve people's health outcomes from not just rich countries in Europe, but also to emerging markets as well. So what if we were able to give you a diabetes test or a cancer screen that only costs 1 or 2 cents per day? In the next 10 years, we will be able to identify risk and act upon it, not just for the affluent, but for a larger segment of the population. So that's the second area of innovation, health. The third is around partnerships. We're seeing that there are new ways of thinking about partnerships in the emerging markets. People use their mobile phones, 10,000 times a day. People use other types of products like e-wallets that they trust, ride-sharing platforms, even retailers and products and services where you could embed insurance into these products and services. So for example, milk powder, baby formula in China, you could possibly bundle insurance with baby formula such that for the period of time that you're feeding your child or your baby, it comes with insurance. And so that could increase the level of trust and accessibility of insurance, increasing the level of inclusion. So those are just some interesting ways in which technology, whether it's health tech or new digital tech or new ways of thinking about how we distribute risk, could potentially open up and include more people. You know, for the first 1,000 Nigerians, we're going to be able to offer this, and we'll just keep control on what it is that's being offered by monitoring it very closely. If it works for 1,000, then we'll take it to 10,000 or 100,000 across a part of Lagos, for example. But when you start small, you get all the regulators to cooperate. What you can do is you can relax the conditions a little bit, because there's this term called blast radius. Even if things don't work, you can fix them, right? You can make calls or make some sort of assurances to the people, because there's only so many of them. And that concept of sandboxes or beta products helps even emerging markets countries say, well, why don't we just try this in a really small scale and see if it works? You mentioned awareness before to me, and I want to talk a little bit about awareness in insurance or any sector. In Bangladesh, which is a country not too dissimilar from Nigeria, 160 to 180 million people, 0.5% insurance penetration, and we're the #1 player with 30% market share. So what we thought about is, why is it that more people are not buying insurance? And one of the reasons is lack of awareness and lack of an understanding as to how it really works. So what did we do? We created a comic strip. We literally created new content which looked like a Sherlock Holmes comic strip in Bengali, and we published various episodes of this comic strip to provide basic understanding of things like the time value of money, or the tax benefit of insurance, or how investing with risk works. And by using this character called Mr. Guru, what we're able to do is lower the barrier to engage that customer, get them comfortable with the idea of risk. And what we're doing effectively is growing the pie. And when you grow the pie of potential people who understand insurance, then everybody benefits. And it's just a simple comic strip. And then one of the first people to say, hooray, this is great, is the regulator. They turn around and say, why isn't everybody doing something like this? So we're going to do it again in a different country, in a different language.
Okay, now, so let's come back to the issue you talked about. How were you, in some of the countries where you guys, when I say you guys have been breakthrough, how are you able to convince the regulator that this is good and it has benefit for the insurance public?
Well, we've worked with some very progressive regulators, and we hope that regulators speak to each other. There is this harmonization that's starting to occur. So on the supervisory side, everyone has their rules, but there's usually a business development angle to many of the regulators as well. And so working with them, we talk to them about what are some of the other jurisdictions doing. So Bank of England will talk to the Monetary Authority of Singapore, we'll talk to Bank Negara Malaysia about, hey, have you worked with LumenLab? Is there something that we can do together to bring LumenLab to our jurisdiction? And that's the only thing that I can offer, which is regulators talk. And hopefully when a regulator has had a positive experience with us, they'll talk to their colleagues. Like we talked to the regulator of Egypt in Bali, and he seemed very interested in thinking about ways in which we could work together.
Okay, now let's talk about the issue of investment in technology.
Yes.
Now, for so many insurance companies, big, medium, small, they do know that, and they appreciate the fact that technology is a...
But we are very clear about what is the business challenge that we're trying to solve. We are not just investing in technology. We are investing to tackle a known business problem that we heard from the business today. We have people who are budget owners who have these problems who say, if there was a way you could solve that problem, we'd be really interested in taking $50,000 and investing it, or $100,000, in a solution on a trial basis. That way you're de-risking it, because you've identified a group of people in the business who say, I have this problem. It's a known problem. The business case is reasonably clear. Let's try it using this innovation that might work for 1,000 people and won't cost too much. Then you get data about whether the market's responding. And from that data, you can make a case for a larger investment. Whether it's in Bangladesh or Nigeria, it's easy to see that if 1,000 customers are really interested in a product or service, and you've invested this much, you might as well invest a bit more to allow 1 million people to benefit.
Okay, so let me try and get what you're saying. So, are you saying that investments in technology should be first you identify the problem that you want to solve with technology before investing as a solution to that problem?
Not quite. I think what I'm saying is you don't need to invest to better understand the business challenge. You don't need to spend $1 because the business will tell you what the business problems are in plain English, in business speak. From there, what you can do is to ask the technology community, the innovation community, hey, can you solve this problem that we heard from our business? That doesn't cost anything either, because the companies, the insurance company, insurtech companies, the technology companies will say, yes, I have a solution that can tackle that problem. What I'm really saying is at that point when you have a match, all you need to do is to spend just a little bit of money to understand whether it works or it doesn't work. I would not propose that you go off and spend millions of dollars to try to tackle that problem once you identify it. First, try to spend less money on an MVP, a minimum viable product, to go off and tackle that problem in an experiment. And if it works, then you spend more money.
Micro insurance.
Yes.
Which is, even the government have made efforts to see how they can develop micro insurance to get to the low income earners in society. It has been distribution channel, it's been a major challenge.
Yes.
But I want to see how technology can help in areas of distribution, insurance products and services.
So we've heard in West Africa, in Ghana, that they've had some success with micro insurance models like Bima, right? The telecommunication operators, mobile phone operators, are a good partner for insurance providers because they have access to mobile phones. And we see that as just the tip of the iceberg. There will be many, many other partners, other customer journeys in which we might embed insurance. It won't just be Bima in the telco operator in Ghana. It will be that we can find ways to provide micro moments of insurance. I don't want to use the word microinsurance because microinsurance has got a stigma associated with it. The developed world doesn't like it because they call it low ticket size, and microinsurance hasn't been cracked from a distribution perspective. But if you think of it from a micro moment of insurance, then the key is, how do I provide a product and serve that customer in that moment in a simple digital way that reduces the cost? So you don't have an issue of having to acquire the customer just to sell them insurance.
Alright, welcome back. Moving on now, we bring you highlights of the BULLION lecture that held recently at the Civic Center, Victoria Island, Lagos. The guest speaker was Professor Benedict Orama, President of the African Export-Import Bank, Cairo, Egypt. Happy viewing.
The BULLION Lecture is the annual lecture series of the Center for Financial Journalism, conceptualized as a platform for lively discourse on national and international issues. The 2019 edition was recently held at the Civic Center. The theme was Leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Agreement for Nigeria's Economic Development. Guest speaker was Professor Benedict Orama, President, African Export-Import Bank, Cairo, Egypt. Welcoming guests to the lecture series, Dr. Oladimeji Alo, who's student for the chairman of the board of the Center for Financial Journalism, Mr. Enet Ebi, said that the center, through its training, is raising a crop of journalists who can tell Africa's story to the world.
Our target at the center is to extend these training programs to other regions of the African continent in the near future. Gradually, we are raising a good number of national journalists and communicators who are able to tell our stories to the outside world. This is our mission. We are not yet there yet. We believe that with time and with the support of our partners, we will accomplish this mission. I thank you all for coming. I ask you to please relax and enjoy the lecture.
In his opening remarks, the chairman of the 2019 Bullion Lecture, Dr. Uche Olowu, said that trade is critical to unlocking the full potentials of the Nigerian economy.
We need to unlock the potentials of this economy. And trade is one very, very important element. Today we have a trade war between China and US, and that's how it's been elevated. So today's lecture is very apt. I want to thank the board for bringing out this lecture, leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Agreement for Nigerian economic development. There's no other person than the man who is driving it at the continental level that is going to give us his views. Of course, we need a better understanding, a wider perspective of why. Because there have been two proponents in Nigeria today: oh, we shouldn't sign, or some say we should sign. Then I say because of our inefficiency, weakness, and all that, infrastructural gaps, if we will be disadvantaged. And the other proponents are saying, look, at the long run, Nigeria will be better for it. Even if we have some inefficiencies, it will wake us up.
Delivering the theme of the lecture, Professor Benedict Orama noted that the quickest way to promote regional integration is to break the colonial barriers.
Just as the continent's current situation did not arise by chance, improving the conditions must also be strategic. We shouldn't leave it to chance. For a continent of 55 countries with different regulations, financial systems, and colonial history, the quickest means to promoting regional integration is to have an arrangement that constitutes the framework for breaking the structural barriers created by the colonial administrators. That is why the AfCFTA is a welcome development. So March 21, 2018, African leaders indeed made history by signing the agreement establishing the AfCFTA. On that historic day, I sat in the conference room at the Kigali Conference Center and observed with keen interest and hope as leaders of our continent, one after another, worked with days to sign the document establishing the AfCFTA. I actually watched with apprehension because before the document was open for signature, there were indications that were only about 22 countries were going to sign. But as events unfolded, 44 countries signed.
Panelists at the lecture this year were Mr. Muda Yusuf, Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Mr. Ade Adefeko, Vice President, Corporate and Government Relations, Olam, Nigeria. Sharing his thoughts during the panel discussion, Mr. Adefeko said that the Nigerian Customs Service should ensure that they are for trade promotion, not revenue generation.
Our customs should ensure that they are for trade promotion, okay? Not talking strictly about revenue generation all the time. Very, very important. And I'm one of those who believe that for you to be competitive, you must have comparative advantage. Very, very important. You can only be competitive when you have comparative advantage. And it is very, very key and critical. And another issue and a bone of contention in Nigeria particularly is what we call policy flip-flops. You have policies based on electoral cycles. We need to stop that. Have long-term policies. For example, we speak to development plans. Development plans will do us better than having short-term plans of 2 years, 3 years. In the 70s, 60s, 70s, we had 10-year development plans. Very long-termism. So you will plan. But right now you can't plan because everything is on a short-term ad hoc basis. So very, 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 very important.
Given the high-level discussion at the lecture this year, Some participants had questions for the guest speaker and panelists. The annual Bullion Lecture Series, many believe, is a welcome development as it brings people from all walks of life to discuss critical issues that affect the Nigerian economy.
And that is our show for this week. Many thanks for being a part of it. Do join us again next week for a fresh package. In the meantime, if you missed any part of today's episode, you can catch it again on our YouTube channel. All you have to do is subscribe and watch. Now don't forget to also connect with us on all our other social media platforms. Once again, my name is Maggie Osibor. Thanks for joining us this week. Enjoy our parting shots from Kevin Sapp at the 2018 Insurance Industry and Consumers Night. Bye-bye.
Insurance Consumers Party. See, the truth is you can never persuade a Christian to do life insurance. Ask me why. Because they all give their life to Christ. So they're not going to agree. If you tell Christians, say, insure your life, they'll say, my brother, my life there with Christ. Now imagine Catholic Church decide to sing Davido's song Fire. The way it goes sound, even you go shock. They go just put the beat. Simple. Bring an announcement, bring an announcement.
Obio, baddest. Shawty want $1 million. Say make a wire. Tell me to undercover murder. She said all her friends are living la vida loca. If I'm here, me, my love. Now you hear the chorus. Fire, fire. I love you. Fire, fire. No, say make I put one hand for. Fire. I love you. Fire, fire. No, say make I put one leg for. Fire. I love you. Fire, fire. No, say make I put one hand for. Fire. I love you. Fire, fire. No, say make I put one leg for fire. Chokora kiloko shio. Shuku shika. Haya shumeko. Carolina Savior. Drive.